There we go. Okay. So all of you guys are in here for the intro to Office 365 Admin Center, right? Can you see? Good?
Okay.
Okay. All right, because I'm a walker, so I'm gonna be like pacing and all types of stuff. Hopefully I don't get in your way. But just to move on, if I can find the daggone, now of course that's missing. Okay, there it is. All right, just to move on, give you guys a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nakia Carter. I'm a Microsoft Strategist Solutions Developer and Trainer based out of the DC area. Here's some of my street cred here. Right now I'm working on a contract with a government subcontractor for a government agency. So yeah, I'm on leave right now. Yay. Forced leave, love it. But my specialties are Office 365, SharePoint, InfoPath. I should put and related tech, which I thought I changed this slide. It's probably on my other deck because Office 365 has so many technologies in it, you gotta be the master of more than one thing. And you can see the rest of my street cred here. You can feel free to reach out to me if you like. My Twitter handle, if you guys are on Twitter and you do the pound SPSVB, you'll see some of my tweets going out. So you're able to reach back to me there. And you can also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or connect with me. And that is my phone that you can call or text. I don't have a sponsor slide, so I figured I'd just make one. Hopefully they didn't give us an official one, because if not, I am not in compliance right now. But we should thank all of our sponsors, of course, those that hosted this event, and all of you for coming. So if we didn't have sponsors, we wouldn't have money. If we didn't have hosts, they wouldn't have put all this together. If you guys didn't come, sponsors wouldn't show up and we wouldn't have money. So thank you guys too. I like to always remind people about their area user groups. I believe you guys have one in Virginia Beach area. We have like several thousand, well not really, but a whole lot of them in the DC area. You guys have one here, right? A Virginia Beach user group.
I know they're starting up what they were talking about, a SQL user group.
SQL?
Around here, there's one in DC, but
yeah, DC is far.
I just got here like 2 weeks ago, so I'm not up in all the user groups around the area yet.
Okay, but you should probably check meetup.com. That's where a lot of user groups are going. I run a user group in the DC area. Mine is in Meetup. All of my friends' user groups are mostly at Meetup, except for the Power App user groups, the Power BI user group, and all the Power Platform user groups. They all have their own little side thing, but you just look that up on the whatever Power Platform of your choice website. There should be a link down at the bottom for the user groups. You guys know about SPS events? You know about SharePoint Fest? Do you know about Collab 365 community? If you go to collab365.community, that's another place for you to be able to get free webinars, free training. They have a few different conferences per year. They're normally online. There's the Microsoft Tech community, of course, and then those are all the user groups in my area. If you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to ask me. I do a lot of training. I haven't done a lot lately, but I still do a lot of consulting and strategy with my clients. I'm used to questions, so if you have a question, ask it. I'd rather you get it out when it's real time for you, so you remember what the heck you were trying to say, instead of me trying to continue on, because I will pick up. I might have to finish my breath before I get to your question, but I will definitely get to it as quickly as possible. So some of the topics that we're going to go over today, and hopefully we get through all of this. A lot of stuff has changed in Office 365 though. Like one of those things that we're going over, and I actually forgot to add it into this slide, is Skype for Business Admin Center is no longer the Skype for Business Admin Center. It's Teams and Skype. So that's a bit different, and hopefully it doesn't trip us up too much, but there's a lot going on. And we're going to try to go over those main things. I always have to give this disclaimer when I'm doing Office 365. Notice this thing says, don't hit me, okay? And the reason why I say don't hit me is because this is cloud technology that I'm talking about. Things change from time to time, sometimes with warning, a lot of times without warning. So if you catch me fumbling around because a button moved or my slides aren't exact to what's going on, Please forgive me. It's cloud. I'll try to correct myself as we go along. Administration of Office 365 is a big deal because Office 365 has gotten so huge. So this is the beginning steps to help you along that beginning your journey. So without further ado, some background on Office 365. Are you all familiar with Office 365? You know everything that's, okay. I got some, no, maybe not quite. It's the successor to this thing called BPOS that was before Office 365. If you happen to meet its acquaintance, you probably would wish you never had. It was horrible. But Microsoft learned a lot of valuable lessons, and Office 365 was birthed out of it. Office 365 is a very low-cost platform, cloud platform. It also can be very free for nonprofits and educational institutes that are accredited anyway. Accessible from anywhere, can meet compliances. Now, it says, I should put can up here. It says meets many compliances. It meets it as a platform, meaning that it was tested against those triggers and policies and things like that. But that doesn't mean that your platform out of the box meets that standard. There are things that you have to turn on, things you have to configure in order to get to each level. And sometimes you might need a different license. Like if you need to be in a more secure environment because you're a government defense contractor or you're a government agency, you might need to be in GCC or GCC High. That's different licensing than Office 365 Commercial. Okay, and then you also still have to put triggers, configure some things as well. So should say can meet, but it does, for the product overall. Subscription based, but you can buy it per year. You don't have to go the monthly route if you don't want to. And you can have a minimum of just one user. The subscriptions can be mixed and matched. And these are some of the things that come in each subscription for the most part. Now, not all of these offerings are in every subscription level, but these are the main ones that most people see. So there's Exchange. Crap, that thing should say 100. I got to fix that. The mailbox that you get is 100 gigs, not 50 gigs anymore. Everybody that has that as part of their subscription gets it. They might also have unlimited archiving if they have an E3 or above license. Skype for Business. Also Teams, which I didn't put on here, which is another thing I got to add to this already cramped slide, but it's one of those things that come with most people's environment. So Skype for Business, not to be confused with Skype, gives the people the ability to have presence as well as the web conferencing feature. So you're able to get rid of GoToMeeting or WebEx, and that's a cost that can be eliminated from your organization. OneDrive, not to be confused with OneDrive for Business, not to be confused with OneDrive. So there's the commercial Skype and the commercial OneDrive, which can be downloaded for free off of the commercial sites. But if you need, the consumer sites. But if you need like the business, you need to go to the Office 365 commercial or GCC High to purchase that licensing. Everybody gets 1 terabyte of space. So everybody that has OneDrive for Business in their license, they have 1 terabyte of space to themselves, but they can share out to other people and revoke privileges as they like. Then there's SharePoint, which everybody gets that space to share by default, but then it can be permissioned so that certain people can get in certain areas and not in these areas, and maybe at this level here and there, things like that. But it starts off at 1 terabyte. It can go up to 25 terabytes, but you have to pay 20 cents a gig per month if you want to go past that 1 terabyte. There's the Office web apps and Office desktop applications. Now the web apps come with all of the licenses. That means you can use Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and OneNote. They took away Visio. They put Visio in there and then they took it out. So now it's gone again. And of course, Outlook through the web. The desktop version would be Office 2016 now, I think, or 2019. I can't remember which one, but it's like always, it's evergreen. So it keeps updating itself. Every once in a while, you'll get new updates. And that is per license subscription. That would be E3, E5, or Business Premium. And then there are other features that you could get, like the ability to have legal hold, e-discovery, full service or self-service Power BI, extended SharePoint, the video center, Sway. Yes, Sway is still there. I don't know if it's going to go away or not, but it's still there. And a bunch of different add-ons that you can add on, like CRM or projects. I have links here, so when I tweet out with the recording will be a link in these slides. I'll actually put it on one of the slides. So you'll get the deck, and you'll be able to go to all of these links to be able to see the different business plans, or the government plans, or the nonprofit plans, whichever one works for you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Office 365, the home page, and all of the little widgets that are on here. This is for reference later. We're about to look at it live right now. Okay, so let me escape out of here. Right now we're on the Office 365 homepage. And, oh, I'm sorry, not the homepage, the admin center. The Office 365 homepage, let me just go there real quick. Hopefully that typed, yes. Okay. When most users enter Office 365, hopefully this is the right. All right, that's weird. Normally when I'm in the admin center, it doesn't make me go through all the authentication and all that stuff again. Notice I clicked the yes, keep me signed in and eliminate the that doesn't work when you're an admin. Okay, when you're an admin, they're just like, you're gonna have to put in stuff extra times because you have more keys to the kingdom than other people. So don't expect that to work for you all the time. But this is the Office 365 homepage. So this is what most people see when they come into their Office 365 subscription. For you, when you come in, you might see this page like the first time, maybe the first, second time. Then after that, you'll start seeing the admin center every time you come in. But there are some things here that you need to know about. Like these words right here are normally a link, but right now they're not. Sometimes they are. If it is, and it says Office 365, that's how the user can get back to the Office 365 homepage. There's the app launcher or app switcher, which helps you get around to all the different apps that are available to you in your subscription. So depending on which subscription level you have, you may see some of these things and you might not. Or like end users, they definitely won't see the admin center because they won't have admin center access. Also on the home page, you have these apps here as well, so you can see them there as well. There's the notifications where you can see the notifications that are sent to you, whether they be events or messages from Microsoft or emails. I'm going to skip over settings real quick and talk about the help. Help sometimes can be a funny character depending on if your screen has automatically refreshed fully or if it's kind of hanging. Then sometimes you don't get all of this stuff. You might just get a few links like legal, privacy and cookies, community, things like that. Some different links and link to an outside help source. But if you refreshed all the way, or your screen is all the way developed, then you will be able to click in here and type in your help. You also have your featured help, and you have some other things down here. Also, when you're in different parts of Office 365, your help will be different. So it tries to anticipate where you are and give you help based on where you happen to be at. Then there's your personage. Now I didn't add my picture here, but normally I do, and I guess I just have it. This is one of my dev tenants, so I have it here. But your picture will go here, or your initials, your whoever you are, so you're able to tell who you might be. Like me, sometimes I'm in a different tenant and I forget who I am at that moment. Profile, my account, and being able to sign out. And if you wanted to change your picture, you just hover over that and you click on it, and it takes you to the place where you can change your picture. Now I skipped over settings because there's some stuff here that we need to go over a little bit more slowly. One of the things is themes. So I chose a theme. There's a whole bunch more themes here. A person, they can choose whichever theme they like maybe they like this one. Some of them are automated, like this one, the stars twinkle on it. There's one with this robots that my son used to like because it's got robots, you know. Boys like robots when they're little. So if your user chooses one of these themes, they have to, they took it away. There used to be a save button. I used to always have to tell people, make sure you hit the save button, because if you don't, you go away from it and then all of a sudden it changes back and then you're mad because you lost your theme. The other thing that happens though as a admin is that you could assign a theme that's your organization theme, and you could say override this theme. So I'll show you how to do that, okay? That way your users, if you do that, they can't choose their own theme. They only see the organization theme all the time. Or you can give them the choice of whether they want to see the organization theme or see the theme that they want. Some other things here are the start page. People get tired of this home page after a while. They're like, okay, yeah, this was cool when I first started, but now I need to see something else. I need to go to my email, or I need to go to SharePoint. Under the start page is where you can choose that. Now, like I said, as an admin, normally it goes to admin after a while. But if you're like, look, I don't need to see this, let me just switch straight to admin, you can switch it yourself as well there. Language and time zone, this is going to take me to a different page, but you'll be able to set whatever language you want. So some people are learning by immersion. They can actually immerse themselves in the language by changing their language in their own tenant, in their own environment. The time zone, well, I'll just go there real quick. Oh, it didn't open a new page, it just opened the tab. Great. So I stand corrected there too. And these are taking their time. Well, the time zone, you get military time, you get regular standard time, you get the friendly time that has the name of the day with it. So you get to choose all of that stuff. This is also with the date format, time format, and the current time zone. Now, I always recommend that your user or you change your time zone to whatever time zone you actually are in, or you're gonna get things that look weird because they're time stamped differently than when it actually came in. For example, a lot of times it's Pacific time because Microsoft is in Pacific time, its headquarters. If you don't change it to Eastern time, then you probably get things that look like they're 3 hours off for no reason, only because you didn't change your time zone. There's the save button that I was talking about. So whenever you do see the save button, make sure you hit the save button or it's not going to save it. Notifications, you can turn these on or off. You can also customize whether you want to turn off your notifications for mail and having mail sound, or reminders and having reminder sound. You cannot turn off Microsoft notifications though. They're going to come whether you like it or not. Changing your password and changing your contact preferences. For your organization, that might be something that you have your people be able to do for themselves, or you do for yourself. But if you're using Active Directory, and you might be blocking them from making any changes, like changing their own password or changing their user profile, this might not be something that works for them. Or using Azure AD, and you're specifically blocking them from making any changes on their own. But if they can make changes on their own, this is where they would make that change. Now, this settings also is something that changes based on where you are in Office 365. So in your SharePoint, you get SharePoint settings instead of OneDrive, you get OneDrive settings. On this page, besides the apps, there's the ability to install Office. Even if they don't have the ability to install the desktop app of Office, they still have this other installs. Other installs is normally where the Skype for Business install. They might have put the Teams under here. We can go there real quick. Install. There is the business. So even if they don't have the full Office version to be able to download, they can at least get Skype for Business on their computer. The tools and add-ins, this could be something that's a little tricky for people. A lot of times they probably should not download InfoPath unless they know what the heck they're doing. But if they need InfoPath, they could come here and get it because it's been removed from everywhere else except for a few places on the web and here, okay? Because the only InfoPath that's available now is Office 365 version of InfoPath, only because it's being supported only through the 2013 version for a limited time, which is now 2026, because they added 3 more years.
So
Yay.
that doesn't line up with Office 365?
No, and it's not going to get updated anymore. The VNext is Power Apps, and there's a bunch of competitors that are trying to also become that VNext, but Microsoft VNext is Power Apps, which I'll be talking about in the next session.
Sorry.
So it's just, no, it's fine. It's just going to stay as 2013, and when the rest of your Office updates, it never updates. It just stays where it is. They also had on here, if I can find my mouse, there it is, Designer. Need Designer 2013, which is also being deprecated, although it's still being supported. And I think they added another 3 years to that as well because they came out with SharePoint 2019, and 2019 still supports it. 2019, every year you get a new version of SharePoint, you get 3 years of support. So they had to extend it because of that 3 years of support, because they had to put it out in 2019, or people were gonna, scream bloody murder. There's also some information here about putting things on your phone and tablet. So if your users need that, that's another thing they could use. The OneDrive for Business used to be here. Now it's part of the Office suite, but if they need that app, they just go to OneDrive for Business. And on the side panel at the bottom, there's a thing that says get the app. Okay, so if they don't have the Sync app on their computer, they can get it from OneDrive for Business, but it's no longer in this installs page. Any questions on any of this? I know I went really, really, really fast.
I just kind of blurred mine out while you're talking. I just kind of blurred mine out while you're talking.
Okay. Another thing I want to show you just really quickly is under My Account. People that have the desktop version of Office, they get 5 licenses for their PC and Mac, and they also get 5 device licenses for their tablet and their phone, unless it's a Windows phone, which Windows Phone went down, so I guess that doesn't count anymore. But if they, for example, had it on 5 computers for whatever reason, then all of a sudden one of those computers is no longer theirs. They can come to this page and they can get rid of one of those installs. They free uninstall back up. Also, that way, then that person that probably got the computer, whether they got it by hook or crook, possibly by crook, they could get on there, think they're about to use Office, think they got it, and then all of a sudden it just, once it touches the internet, it'll just take it away from them, okay? That's another important thing because the Office download is tied to the user. So if anybody gets that computer and they have that Office, they're able to see everything that user was working on. So that's another reason why you would want to get rid of that install, unless you wipe the computer completely, which is a whole nother thing that we don't have time to get into today. But there are things for that are available for you in the Office 365 Admin Center. I believe they're in security and compliance that you could set up to be able to wipe devices. All right, so that's the home page. Let's go to the Admin Center itself. Sometimes this app launcher is over here, but right now, because of the way my page is oriented, it's responsive, so it responded and put it over there. The Admin Center block is right here. I could click on the 3 dots right here, the open menu, and open in a new tab, or for me, I just right click on it and open a new tab right from that, like this. Okay, that opens it too in a new tab, or couldn't open it in a new tab. All right, on this Office 365 administration homepage, One of the big differences that people are just like, now it says Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Yeah, it does, but it doesn't really, do a whole lot. Some people see that, the wording, and they're just like, oh, a whole bunch of stuff has changed. Not really. Okay, so don't let that freak you out. You have your left navigation here, which has a whole bunch of different stuff, which we are going to try to get through, let's say a little bit of it before we move on, because we only got 30 more minutes. I'll go through this home page though first. On the page, you have this bar for searching. There's a new preview that I have not tried yet, because I just don't want to, I didn't want to mess myself up for today. But of course, when this last preview, because if you've been in the Admin Center before, this looks different than the first one. First Admin Center was okay. This one's a bit better. I like it a bit better, but I don't know what the preview looks like yet. So you might want to be adventurous later and check that out. But you have the ability here to do searching for tasks. So that used to be helpful for me because as a Microsoft partner back in the day, that was something that need to spell right in order for it to come up. There you go. I had lost where this partner relationships went. And that was important to me as a partner. I had to be able to see what other partner relationships that client might have had, remove any ones that were old, and make sure my partnership was also listed correctly. So if there was things in the Admin Center that you were used to seeing, but you can't find it, you could just use the search bar. This thing right here is just a step-by-step saying that you need to go through the setup. I haven't gone through all the setup only because I already knew what I had to do. So I skipped through it myself. I didn't go through this automated process. It's not really automated. It just helps you step through. Here's different blocks on the screen to help you do different things. Like here is for activating your users, for billing, for installing software, for some training, and you can add blocks yourself. On the left navigation, this is where you're probably going to live most of the time. Like here's your users, here's your groups. This is also where your Office 365 groups live and your Teams groups. I'm gonna go there in a second. Resources, including putting like rooms and equipment in your Office 365 environment, which I would definitely do because people like to schedule meetings for rooms and stuff like that to cut down the possible fights until, leadership steps in and just kicks everybody out the room. You could put those rooms and equipment in there, and that way they can put it in their schedule. So when they send out the meeting invite, they can invite the room, they can invite the projector. So they block it off, they book it, okay? That's an easy way to do some booking. Here's your purchasing. So your ability to be able to see which subscription you have, your bills, your payment methods, the licenses, how many licenses you have, whoopsie, and be able to purchase, be able to purchase new services. So if you need new licenses, or if your organization needs an add-on or something like this, this is where you would go. Support. Now support can be tricky because a lot of people now, Microsoft has switched them over to being with a partner. So sometimes you'll go there and it'll like say, call your partner and give you the partner number. Sometimes you'll go there and it'll say, okay, you can submit a ticket and Microsoft will call you instead. It just depends on who is supporting you. If you have a partner, more than likely you'll just get their number, or their support will probably already have like a widget on your computer for you to be able to reach out through one of those help desk means. Okay. Add-ins and services, security and privacy, partner relationships, they added that there. But one of the things I want to show you here, Lord, if I can just keep it still, is your organization profile. Now the reason why I want to show you this is because there are a few things here that you should know about. Not only putting your organization stuff in here, you can also choose how your new features are going to be released to your organization. So you can say, For me, I'm like, I want everything new. As soon as it comes out, release it to everybody that's in this tenant because it's only me and one other person. So, you know, we love the new stuff. But sometimes getting new stuff for some people is not the best thing. One, because they might freak out. And two, because they might just be wielding too much stuff that they just don't know about and they like clicking buttons that they don't understand yet. So you might say you want to have a targeted release for only certain people, or for targeted release for everybody, or the targeted release for only certain people, or just do the standard release. Now the difference between a targeted release and a standard release is that a targeted release would be if anything new comes out, those people that get the targeted release will get it. A standard release will be when it becomes GA, which means general availability. When that becomes GA, then everybody gets it. That's the standard release. So it doesn't mean that you're the first to get it. You'll be waiting for when everybody gets it if you do a standard release. Also, here's where the go away. Here's where your custom themes come into play. You can add a logo. You could say where if they click the logo, is that logo going to go to the company's outside webpage, perhaps? You could put a background image. So the logo would go like in the middle and the background image would go across the whole suite bar. You could prevent users from overriding the theme with their own theme. That's the place you would click if you want to keep them from having their own theme. And then you can add your accents colors, which I normally play with to make sure that they accent the logo perfectly. Because everybody likes their logo to just pop, right? So you can get some extra brownie points by doing that. Also being able to, and this is new, show a person's username on the navigation bar. So I have it turned off, so it just says NC. If I turn it on, it would be the long name instead. Let me just get out of this because I don't want to. Oh, there's the X. Okay. Make sure you hit the save button or it won't save. Okay. You can add custom tiles. The custom tiles would be these things. So if you wanted to add a block that went to a certain place, like maybe an outside help source or maybe the help desk for your organization or something like that, and you wanted to make sure it was on the app launcher or app switcher, whichever one you call it, or the waffle, it would show up here once you make your custom tile. Then the data location just tells you where your data is located in a very, very, very general way. Doesn't tell you like which coast or anything like that, but at least you get an idea. Being places for business, for any commercial businesses that are interested in having their business listed on Bing, like listed on Google Business, Yahoo Business, this is where they can do those controls, which makes it pretty easy. There are a few more things here, like getting your domain, usage reports and compliance. Then there's the health, so you can check the health of your environment. So if people start complaining, you might want to say, okay, let me go check to see if Microsoft has done something, or they got notice of an error that's going on that might be going on through a whole pod or through a whole farm or through a whole region. You go here and check first, probably before you put your ticket in, or maybe just put your ticket in. You can also see in the message center different announcements Microsoft is given. So they are really trying to keep up with all the updates and try to give you updates about the updates that are happening. But of course, there are way too many updates. So they can't put everything in here, but they put a lot of stuff in here. This is one of those places where you might want to go and like visit in the morning just to see what might have popped up, so you can preemptively know, oh, this thing came out, or scheduled maintenance is happening, or blah, blah, blah. So when your users start complaining, you're not just, caught kind of flat-footed, even though you might be caught flat-footed anyway. So it tells you about major updates here, and here's all the active messages. You got different views, so you can see unread messages, plan changes, things like that. Now, on the side, there was, and it could be just because the screen is just so being so weird. Oh, here it is. Edit message center preferences. So do you guys get that email from the message center saying XYZ stuff is changing in your Office 365 environment?
Something to that effect, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a global admin for most of my accounts, so I see like a billion emails sometimes. I like to come in here and edit the preferences. That way you can say, I only care about SharePoint stuff. It ain't SharePoint, I don't care. You could come in here and you could change it so that you only see certain things. There's SharePoint. Skype for Business, which Skype for Business will cover Skype for Business and Teams. So will SharePoint. SharePoint will also cover Teams as well because there's a collaborative as well as the call communication part of Teams. So if you're interested in those things, you could just click what you're interested in, and that way you only get communications about stuff that you actually care about and not have to read through a billion things. All right. Before you start setting up your users, now normally I go through and I actually talk about how to set up the users, but we're running really short on time, so I'm going to kind of gloss over it because it's really not that hard. But I'll share a few pointers. One of the pointers is I strongly suggest you add your domain first. The reason why you add your company's domain first is that way later you don't have to go back and change everybody's domain on their email address after you've added 50 billion people to your organization. Add the domain first. If your company doesn't have a domain, click the buy domain. It'll take you to GoDaddy. GoDaddy and Microsoft have gotten like this as far as domains. It's so easy that it will actually manage all the DNS records for you, and you don't have to manage them at all. You basically say, click, okay, I'm gonna buy it. Okay, let me sign in. Okay, I want you to manage it. I'm done. Now I can just go and add my users, okay? If you have other ones like Namecheap, which I have, or one-in-one, things like that. Most of them are pretty good, and you can get Office 365 to manage the records for you. You have to sign in. Some of them, not so much. If you have Google Business, run away, okay? It's going to take you forever to get that domain out and go to like a GoDaddy or something like that because they suck. I mean, bad. But if you can get it out of there, get it out of there. Go to a different platform that's actually better and works better with this, and run away. Okay, I'm telling you, it's not a good experience at all. But once you add your users, I'm sorry, add your domain. Yes.
On your domains, before you flip away from that, you're short on time. If a user is on Google Business, not me, I use GoDaddy and one-in-one for a few things, and Bluehost for God's sakes. But where could they find the DNS information to be able to give that?
Well,
xdomain.com.
It's like you go through these steps here.
Okay.
So you type in the domain without the www, and then the next step is to verify it, which means you're gonna have to put a text record inside of that DNS. And normally at that step shows you, it says something like, it'll guess which domain host you might be using, but then there's like a drop down. It's kind of not very obvious. If you look at it though, it looks like a link. It'll say you could use these instructions, and there'll be like a link with a name, and it doesn't look very obvious. But if you click on the name, it normally drops down into a list, and then you could choose from the list what the provider is, and they try to give you good instructions. Now, I haven't had any experience with Google Business. Maybe that's better. I know Yahoo Business sucks, and they did not have instructions, and I just had to figure it out. They also have one for general instructions, so they kind of try to tell you generally this is what you got to look for and this is what you got to put in, type of thing.
Thank you.
Actually, for this tenant, I'm using Wix, but I still used Wix. No, I'm using Namecheap, and I have a website through Wix. So Wix was managing the domain at first, and then I switched it over to Office 365. It was a little bit complicated, but it turned out to be okay. For your users, you have a few different user types. Now, most of the time you want to go to your active users, but under here you also have contacts, guest users, and deleted users. Your guest users is where you can see all of your guests. So any guest, however they got into your organizations and sharing somewhere, like all of these are Teams people. So they came from Teams. If they came from SharePoint, they're getting shared in through that way. You would also see them that way. Now, you would not see them if somebody's sharing a document with somebody else outside of your org. You won't see them as guest users. But with those users, you can actually click on one and delete them. So that's actually kind of cool, because sometimes you just need to boot somebody out real quick. And you might not know exactly where they got in at. You could just boot them out here. The thing with deleted users that are deleted stay here for about 30 days, and then you can restore them. When you restore them, they get restored back with their license and everything. Sometimes deleting a user, though, can be a problem. So say, for example, a user leaves the company, but you think this user might be back, okay? You might not want to delete them, because if you delete them, even though they went into this little bin and they're kind of just sitting there, some of their stuff is going to get deleted. Like their OneDrive is going to get cleared. You don't want that to happen, okay? You might want to assign their license to somebody else, like just modify the user, reset their password, change them to somebody else, and give somebody else access to that. A good example would be like firms that have salespeople, and those salespeople have different accounts. And usually when somebody leaves, they hire somebody back right into to take over those accounts. For the new person, you would like them to have all of that background information that the other person had. So you just give them the same account, change the name, change the password, and give them the same account. That way they have all the background information, they have everything that was in the OneDrive and everything. So be careful when you delete people, because if you delete them, you could mistakenly get rid of stuff that you probably didn't want to get rid of. Under active users, I can see my external users as well as my internal users. For things like my internal users, if I click on one, I can see their license, what group memberships they have, which includes teams. So it's teams and groups and security groups, contact information, things like that. Under my OneDrive settings, or the OneDrive settings for that user, if you do want to delete that user, you might want to access their files and pull all their files down for the OneDrive, just in case they have something important in there. Get it, and then do whatever you're going to do with it after that. Okay. The mail settings would be where you could also say convert this to a shared mailbox, because maybe that was a CIO or something like that, and you really need to keep all this stuff. But you need it so the CEO and the CTO and everybody can get into it. You can convert it to a shared mailbox before you delete the user, okay? You do it before, not after, because after, stuff is gone and then you're screwed, or possibly screwed, okay? So do it beforehand. This is also where you could turn on legal hold if you need to turn on litigation hold, because maybe the person is doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, or suspected of doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, or you're just in that sort of environment where everybody needs to have litigation hold on. You turn it on from here if you want to do a person by person. You can also just bulk add users and bulk edit users. Where the heck is the bulk add? Don't tell me they took that away. Are you serious? Wait a minute, let me hit add user before oh my gosh, they took it away. There was a bulk add for users under here, under more, where you could just use a spreadsheet and import a whole bunch of users all at you see it?
Top one. Your mouse is covering it. Import multiple users.
Oh. Phew. I haven't had any coffee. I can't drink coffee right now. It makes my stomach hurt, so I can't do it. So I'm possibly not totally right. But thank you, because that would hurt. With this import users, you can download a file that would be the CSV file with just the headers, or an example one, so you can see the sample data. The first 4 columns have to be filled in. You have to fill in the person's username, which is their email address, their first name, their last name, and their display name. So that's why it's important to have that domain in there first, because then if you don't, then you're probably like, oh, I'll just use abccompany.com, and it's not in there. All of them will fail. And then you might not get an error that tells you exactly that that's the reason why. Then once you get a bunch of them in there, you can actually do some editing of multiple, but there's only certain things you can do. Like editing some of their contact information, not their very specific contact information for that person, but some of it that's the same for both of them. Editing their domains. So if you have multiple domains in your tenant, like your company has a parent company and several children, maybe they're part of the child instead of the parent. You could say, oh, I forgot to put them in the right domain. Go back and change their domain or add a new or anything like that. So you can also edit their roles. Remember, when editing a person's role or giving them a role that's an administrator, just go to that real quick. So if you give somebody a role as an administrator, you have the global administration, which means there's nothing you can keep this person out of, so they better be trustworthy because they can get into everything, okay? Or you can customize the administration role, which there's a bunch more different customizations of roles that you can give them, which is good because back in the day it wasn't very many that you could do, but now there's a good deal. And oh, they got Teams ones now. Yay. Remember, you have to give them an alternate email address, and it has to be an email address that's not inside of your tenant. So if that domain is inside of your tenant, it will error on you. You have to use something else, like maybe a Hotmail or something like that. Your product licenses are here. Your password, most of the time I use auto-generated passwords, and I make the user change their password the first time. But there are some times where you need to create one, so you can just give them an easy password. Look, just use password 123 and you gotta change it. Or if you're doing a dev account, you might say, I wanna set it for a specific thing, and I don't wanna have to change the stupid thing. I just wanna go do my job, okay? So you can do that as well by unchecking the box so that they don't have to change the password. Any questions on any of that? Lord, 6 minutes and we haven't gotten to the, okay. We're gonna just skip straight over everything else to the SharePoint Admin Center, okay? This Admin Center now, we got 2 of them. We got the original one, which is this one, and we got the preview one, okay? The original one important thing for you to note is that there are no teams or groups ones that'll show up here. So if you're looking for a teams or group, you're not gonna see it here. You gotta go to the preview in order to see it, which I'll show you that in a minute. But let me show you some important stuff that you really need to configure or make sure are configured in your site. Under settings, come on settings, let's go. Don't have time. Under settings, one of the main things that I really think you need to make sure is turned on, now there's a lot of stuff here that has nothing to do with SharePoint, which is one of the reasons why Microsoft is making these changes and moving stuff around in all the admin centers. But a lot of this stuff is still here. One of the main things you really need to make sure you have turned on is allow users to run custom scripts. Now you might think, why would I want to use it to run a custom script? That just seems like I'm gonna have users blowing up my SharePoint for, you know, because they can run whatever. It's not like it sounds, okay? And it's connected to stuff that's just dumb. Like the project site. If you do still use project sites, they won't work right unless you turn on this this option. It's weird, but true. And it takes 24 hours for it to go into effect, or up to 24 hours. So as soon as you know, go in there and change it so you don't have to, you know, run into the issues. And they're weird things that happen. I can't remember, there was an error that happened and I called support and we were on the phone for a minute and they were like, did you turn on custom scripting for this client? And I was like, well, this don't have nothing to do with, turned it on, next day it worked. What? Just stuff that just happens. If you ever see that your modern pages have comments on and you want to turn it off globally, this is how you turn it off globally. Also, being able to let people create subsites from the command for all sites, which is really, I got to show you that. I really got to show you that. Let me show you real quick. Come on, dude. It is this thing. This create site, that's the only place where you can create a communication site. So if you need a communication site, you gotta make sure this is turned on. This team site, don't let the smooth taste fool you. It is a team site with a group on it, which is not the same as a classic team site when you go to look at all the features and functionality that are behind it. And I actually have a Nick tip on that on the Colab 365 community. I'm going to put some of my stuff on there, so links to things like that you might run into that I kind of give a tip about. This is one of those things. But if you need to make a communication site, this is the only place you can make it. So that has to be turned on here in the admin center. The show subsite command for all sites has to be turned on, and this one, being able to create a new team site or a communication site, or you won't be able to create a communication site, period, which could possibly suck. All right, going back to the preview just real quickly. Then we'll come back and go to sharing, and we'll just have to quit from there. Like I said, the preview is the only place where you could see all of your sites, whether they're a group or a team or a classic site collection or a modern site collection. Oh, you can't see communication sites either from the classic admin center, which is weird. You can only see classic ones. That's it. So if you need to see like things that are classic team sites, but you also need to see your group team sites, because it just says team site instead of group, which kind of sucks because that can confuse you, but that's what it is. Or your communication sites, they only show up in the new admin center. And there's stuff that's popping up here. I'm not going to go into all of this stuff because there's new stuff here too, and we don't have time. But I'm going to go back to the classic admin center. One other thing that you need to really make sure that you are looking at is sharing. You need to make sure that sharing is happening in an appropriate way in your organization. I highly suggest, if you're going to use external sharing, letting people use external sharing, make sure, now I don't do external sharing here, so that's why I don't have it turned on, but for my clients, I usually turn on anonymous access links to expire in a certain amount of days. So if somebody gives an anonymous access link to somebody else, which means that anybody that has that link can get into whatever that thing is, make sure it at least expires. That way they don't have it forever, because you know your users aren't going to remember, you know, and if it's something that is sensitive or possibly sensitive, you want it to just go away after a while. Also, sharing for authenticated external users, you want to make sure that that is on, making sure they're authenticated. Oh, this thing. External users must accept sharing invites from the same account that they got the invite to. That way, they're not accepting it from some random Hotmail account. It kind of just locks it down a little bit better if you're sharing with external users. Also, requiring recipients to continually prove that they own the account. So it keeps challenging them. Are you really the owner? Are you really able to see this thing? Just in case they walk away or they no longer are accessing, or somebody else gets the link and they're not accessing it properly. It's just some extra clamps that you could put around, some extra security to hopefully keep your users from getting your organization in trouble. Okay, so you want to make sure you consider the things here. Also, I normally turn the default permission link to view from edit. That when they go to share an anonymous link, it's automatically view instead of just edit. They have to think, I want to give this person edit rights to this thing. Let me turn on edit instead of it's automatically edit and then anybody gets the link, automatically can edit the thing. So just some things to think about. I am going to finish off with these last tips, and then we'll finish up. Thanks for hanging in with me, guys. Sorry it was just like so fast and just so much stuff. Normally I teach this class and sometimes I could teach it in a day, and sometimes I teach it in a week if we're going to get into a lot of detail. So trying to teach it in an hour is a lot. All right, so some tips. Are any of you new admins? Are you new? You're new admin now? You new, sir?
We're not on 365 yet.
Okay. Well, some of this will be common sense to you, but some of it you might be like, oh yeah. Make sure you layer your experience. You got to know what the end user sees, will experience, then know what the power user, the person that has one level up, maybe changing sites or something like that, will experience before you really tackle being an admin, or at least try to do it at the same time. Because if you don't know what they're going to experience from you clicking this button, you might just land yourself in a whole world of hurt, or land them in a whole world of hurt. Okay, so knowing what's going to happen from their perspective and from a power user perspective is good for you to do. Also, try to stay in the know. The cloud is crazy fast, moving fast all the time, but you want to try to stay up with technology as much as you possibly can. Reading those messages from the message center is one of those ways. Being part of user group community, being at conference events like this one. Like going to meetup.com, search for SharePoint. You probably already have a user group in this area that you just don't know about yet. Or Office 365, search for that too. Understand the business side and understand why your business users are doing things the way that they do them. Because sometimes they might not want to let go, but sometimes you can develop a process that will actually work better for them. But you also got to be able to explain it to them in their language so that they understand that you're trying to help them. You're not just trying to complicate things by adding this new piece of technology. But also understanding that maybe their process is the right way and you need to build something that will actually work for the process as is. But being able to communicate is key. Understand your users, also knowing why they do the things that they do. It will help eliminate shadow IT. You don't want shadow IT, it's a problem. There's ways to clamp it down, but it's better if you have open communication and you understand your users so that you're able to communicate to them why you're doing things a certain way and how it's going to help them, and they'll be less inclined to do things, in the shadows. Training is key, and that's why you guys are here. It equals adoption, which equals job security for the most part. So like even me, I'm kind of like hovering out there in partial leave, partial no job land because of the government shutdown. But if I wanted to, I could just go get another job. So even if the job isn't with your company, there's lots and lots of SharePoint opportunity and lots of Office 365 opportunity. The more you stay up with it, the better you'll be for this field. For keeping up and getting new opportunities in the field. So any final questions? Thanks guys. If you have any questions, I'll be here through lunch, but you can also feel free to reach out to me or tweet me, because you can also tweet me or connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever. Thank you. Oh, the number? 540-369-6058, and you could call or text.
Where did you say the